This is GovExec Daily, where we bring you the federal stories that really matter. It's May 24th, 2022. I'm Ross John for today. In 1862, the ironclad ship USS Monitor fought the Confederacy's CSS Virginia to a draw in the Battle of Hampton Roads, but later sunk during a storm off the coast of North Carolina. 160 years later, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is leading a federal mission to explore and livestream the wreckage of the ship as it rests on the ocean floor. Helming that mission is NOAA marine archaeologist Tane Casserley. The expedition began on May 15th and will run until May 25th with daily streams online. Recently, GovExec correspondent and frequent GovExec Daily guest Eric Katz interviewed Casserley about the mission and the ship. After a short message, you'll hear their conversation. Want to hear more from GovExec, NextGov, Defense One, and Route 50? Tune in to our virtual events to hear interviews with government leaders about the most important topics today, including the federal workforce, health IT, artificial intelligence, 5G, and more. Visit govexec.com/events to learn more.
So, I was reading about what you've got going on here. Seems really exciting. Maybe you can start by telling me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been with NOAA? How long have you been doing this sort of work?
Yeah, luckily I got my start with NOAA 22 years ago as a volunteer and grad student at the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary. And it's an honor to be back here 22 years later after so much work's been done to keep putting a spotlight on this incredible shipwreck.
Okay, so you haven't been with NOAA that entire time, but you've come back.
I've been with the Sanctuary program the entire time.
Gotcha.
So I was in Monitor through the big artifact recovery years. Then I was in the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. I also worked for our Maritime Heritage program, and then recently came back to the Monitor Sanctuary.
Okay, understood. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about this project that you're working on with the Monitor? I know a little bit of the history, but how did this come together? I'm intrigued that there's so many different components that seem to be working together and collaborating on this. How did that all get pieced together and lead to where we're going on the 15th?
Yeah, well, so the Monitor Sanctuary, we recognize this the shipwreck's an incredible archaeological historical resource, but we also recognize that it's an incredibly important habitat for the fish and the marine life. So we partnered with the National Centers for Coastal Ocean Science, which is a NOAA office, NCOS, and they specialize in bioacoustic work by really using sonar to document the fish that are using these shipwrecks as a habitat. So they've done incredible work where they can image it they can use multi-beam and single-beam sonar to create these 3D representations of the shipwreck, where we get a beautiful view of the shipwreck as a multi-beam sonar image, but they're also extracting data so you can see the schools of fish around the shipwreck, and that's what's really cutting edge about it.
I want to get into sort of the actual logistics of how this will work, but before we do, just maybe a little bit more background. What are some of the goals here? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, so we were able to do this, this work, working with NCOS, the Modern National Marine Sanctuary, to document the shipwrecks. But we also recognize that we need to help share this story with the American people, with the public. So we partnered with one of the nation's, if not the world's, one of the most cutting edge groups out there, the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration, who bring in their expertise with ROVs and remotely operated vehicles and satellite technology to do these telepresence broadcasts, so we can include the public in sort of these first-hand discoveries. So as the scientists are at sea, seeing some of these things for the first time, so is the public. And that's really important for us as the sanctuaries, to share that information with the public and bring them into the process, because this is, in essence, this is their resources that we're managing for the public good.
Mm-hmm.
So that firsthand experience, share these resources with everybody, and this is one of the most cutting edge ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've been in and around these sorts of monuments for a long time. These marine sanctuaries. What do you you talk about the public good and the information that we can learn from it, from them. What do you continue to be surprised by as you explore these things? What are you still learning, in the course of your career?
Well, you're always going to find something new anytime you go down on these shipwrecks. Sometimes we see something archaeologically we've never seen before, or we're unable to see for a certain reason. Maybe a storm has come through. These hurricanes are really moving sediment and currents around them. They're pretty strong. And sometimes things we never expected to see are now unearthed because the sediment's been moved. But honestly, for me, sometimes it's that natural, spectacular beauty down there with the marine life. I mean, they're so vibrant. So these wrecks are really oases of life in a desert environment. When you come up to them, I mean, you can't but help to see this huge swath of color there, and it's that shipwreck that's alive. So for me, that's really exciting to see that.
Obviously, there's the you talk about the beauty and the marine life down there. What about the history? Is that something that draws you to this project in particular? There's it's such a storied. I think in middle school or whatever we all learned about the Monitor. How much are you drawn to that side of things?
Oh, I think even more so than everything else. It's been close to my heart for my whole career at NOAA. So I grew up in Hawaii, and the Civil War was covered in one afternoon. But the one thing I remember is that painting of the Monitor and the Virginia battling it out in Battle of Hampton Roads. So to be able to actually go down, and I scuba dove, we've dove on the shipwreck, so I've actually physically touched it underwater. We've touched it on land with artifact recoveries, but when you immerse yourself in it, it's that direct connection to that part of history. And it's incredible. It's even more amazing is that the whole region around here surrounded by these incredible shipwrecks off Cape Hatteras. So we've got the World War I shipwrecks. The Germans came over here. We never thought they could with the U-boats, and they're sinking our ships. Something we thought they'd never see. They were doing it. And then we've got these battleships that were sunk as well by General Billy Mitchell, and he was doing tests to prove that the airplanes could sink battleships, and that led to carrier warfare. We're going to visit these sites. And then, of course, the World War II sites, too, which are so prominent with our lives, with our grandparents and great-grandparents. Mm-hmm. To see that history, that naval battlefield on the seafloor right off the U.S. East Coast is a huge reminder of how close the war came to America's shore.
Certainly. So on this one, walk me through how this is going to work, because I know it's it looks like there's 10-day. It's a 10-day expedition. So will you and your team be out at sea for 10 days? Do you come back every day? How does that work?
No, we're going out the entire time. In fact, we just left the dock in Charleston, and we're heading out to sea right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So literally, I'm looking out through the porthole, and we just went under the big Charleston Bridge, and we're heading out to the Atlantic. But yeah, so we're going out the entire time, and we'll be going from shipwreck to shipwreck every single day. And at night, it gives us the opportunity with the ROVs back on deck, but the work never stops. So we're out there and we're sonar surveying the areas offshore here. We're doing it for to look at the habitats, but also for the shipwrecks as well. So we literally go 24 hours a day, ROV operations at daytime and remote sensing at night.
Okay, so you mentioned the remote vehicles. So that will be what is going down to these shipwrecks, not actual human beings.
Right, and so that technology, because there is such high technology fed live up to the surface to the ship, that allows us to share these explorations in real time with everyone. So the idea is we actually have 2 ROVs. It's got one that acts as a lighting chandelier that has camera. Then there's cameras in the primary ROV underneath it. So you can think of how one ROV would spotlight the other and really kind of show those resources, and the other one can come right in close. And when they're doing that, we're on the ship helping to narrate, sharing those experiences, but also we've got our experts on land that are calling in, and they're lending their voices to the exploration and discoveries as well.
Mm-hmm. So can you clarify for me? I know that. So this is based around the Monitor, but you mentioned that you're going to shipwreck after shipwreck. So there's going to be several different sites that you visit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at it as we're studying the Monitor and the region around it.
Okay.
So the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary it's the smallest sanctuary in the sanctuary system. It's only a 1 mile diameter column of water. It goes down and protects only one shipwreck, which is the USS Monitor. But we also recognize how important the region was, ecologically and historically. So we're looking at the natural reefs around us as well, and the fish that call that home and the habitat. But we also look what we call at the maritime cultural landscape, which is really looking at the history surrounding it too, to get a better understanding of what contributions this part of the ocean has made historically. And we just happen to have shipwrecks in a region called the Graveyard of the Atlantic, which not only catches ships and sinks them from storms and hurricanes, but also from wars.
So, I think a lot of people, our readers, they're mostly in federal government, federal employees, but I still think that a lot of them won't know, that this is something that NOAA does. How would you explain to them why that this is something that the federal government does and should do and will continue to do?
Well, one, it's looking at the historic shipwrecks, which are owned by the United States Navy. They're owned by MARAD and the United States Coast Guard. And those are the vessels that we'll be visiting, as well as the Germans, looking at their German U-boats. So these are government managed, government-owned shipwrecks. And so what we're doing is helping to contribute to the greater knowledge of what their resources are doing on the seafloor, which is important. So we share that information with them, but also really, maybe even more importantly, is looking at them ecologically, really because these shipwrecks are really important areas for fish attractants, and they're finding that they're really productive for the fish too. So, when you look at the coastal economics, these shipwrecks are where everybody fishes. That's the lifeblood of the recreational fishermen in those local communities in the Outer Banks. So ecologically, it's incredibly important because of the habitat. Economically, it's incredibly important because of the funds and the tourism that brings to coastal Carolina. And then historically, of course, it's incredibly important to document our past and work with our federal partners to help them manage their sites as well.
We sort of got into this at the start, but was it was it difficult to get buy-in from your partners on this that you're working with, or was everyone sort of excited and ready to go?
I got to be honest, everybody was incredibly excited and ready to go. The Office of National Marine Sanctuaries has worked out a cooperative agreement with the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration. The whole operation was funded through a cooperative agreement by the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. And all the other partners we brought in are just so excited to tell these stories. And, quite frankly, the sites are gorgeous. So you've got the historical aspects of these gigantic shipwrecks on the bottom, and then these huge fish and the predators that are they're calling this home. So when you come in, it's almost like an African safari. That it's just where you look, wonder and awe.
So, how many people? You said you're on the ship now. How many people are with you?
We have 12 engineers and archaeologists on board, and I can tell you in the ship's crew, I can actually give you the number here and there's about 20 officers and crew aboard the ship.
Let me ask you this though: what do you see as your next challenge, your next adventure? Either as it relates to if there's more that you hope to do with the Monitor and surrounding areas, or is there something else that's sort of on the bucket list for what to explore next?
Well, I got to be honest. I'm the most excited by is to share this information with the public. So we're not only broadcasting this live, right, but we are also shooting something called a 360 video. So that enables sort of a virtual reality experience with this video we're collecting. So you could put like VR goggles on kids in an event and then put them into the space so they feel like they're at the monitor, but that video is swirling around them. We're doing that, and we're also creating photogrammetry 3D models of the shipwrecks as well. So for me, to be able to share that at events with the public firsthand is something they can ordinarily never see. That's, to be honest, what I get the most excited by.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see it. One other thing, actually, before I let you go, I wanted to ask, for you and for the other NOAA staff and others that are with you, how much was there a lot of training involved to go into this? I know this isn't particularly something brand new to you, but just for this mission, did you have to? What did that look like, the preparation?
I got to be honest, it was pretty easy, and I say that because the folks at GFOE are so polished and professional. We literally could stand back and they set up everything. So they brought a satellite dish that they completely set up. They have a huge infrastructure with about 15 screens they set up. So all I had to do was really bring in some information about the shipwrecks historically and what we've collected data on the wrecks over the years. But these guys did the heavy lift, and they did an incredible job. So we're just lucky we get to work with professionals like this. And of course, NOAA ship Nancy Foster is always polished and ready to go. So they made it easy. I got to be honest.
Well, that's good. All right, great. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, I will do that. Thank you.
Yeah, no
okay.
problem.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to GovExec Daily. Our show was produced by Adam Butler and me, Ross John Fortune. We want to thank Eric Katz for interviewing Tane Casserley on the program today. Our music is the song Signals by Catfish Dancing. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Check us out on the Clubhouse app by searching for GovExec Daily. You can email us any feedback at podcast@govexec.com or hit us up on Twitter at GovExec. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk to you later.